Welcome to So I Married a Film Critic, a discussion between a professional film critic and lecturer and me, his wife of 20 years, who just likes to watch movies for fun. I'm your co-host, Julia.
This is Barry the Film Critic. Hello, everyone.
And tonight we thought it would be a good time to die hard.
It's Christmas Eve in L.A.
California.
Is Daddy coming home soon?
Well, we'll see what Santa and Mommy can do, okay?
And New York cop John McClane has come to see his wife.
I missed you.
Instead, he's going to have to save her.
Sit down.
Within this skyscraper high above the city, 12 terrorists have declared war.
They're about to be taught a lesson in the real use of power.
They're as brilliant
Because I am interested in the $640 million in your vault.
as they are ruthless.
And I'm telling you, you're just going to have to kill me. Okay. We do it the hard way.
Now, the last thing McClane wants is to be a hero.
Where's Holly? Hey, Tucker! Where?
But he doesn't have a choice.
What does he think he's doing?
They have already killed one hostage.
This channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
Lady, do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza? He's inside? Who is he? Who are you then? You are most troublesome for a security guard.
Sorry, wrong guess, huh? Would you like to go for double jeopardy?
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay,
But you just destroyed a building. And I am in charge of this situation.
Well, I got some bad news for you. Come up here, that look like you're in charge of Jack.
He is alone, he is tired, and he hasn't seen Dippin' Squat from anybody down here.
Hey, pal, how you feeling?
All things being equal, I'd rather be in Philadelphia.
I want blood. And you have it.
Only John can drive somebody that crazy.
He's an easy guy to like
Come out to the coast, we'll get together, have a few laughs.
and a hard man to kill. Bruce Willis, Die Hard.
Got invited to the Christmas party by mistake. Who knew?
Oh, man. So we're going to, I guess, should we talk about the controversial issue about whether this is a Christmas film or not?
Every year when somebody brings this up, I think they're just doing it to get like comments and likes and shares because everyone gets so
This is a big issue for
outrage.
people. It's I love it. All the stuff that's going on in the world right now, this is the thing that gets people really worked up. Whether this is a Christmas movie. I guess we should save it to the end to talk about that. Should we leave them in suspense or should we get to the bottom of this right now? Sure.
I say,
But
who cares?
But you know what? If we're going by that rule, like it's a story that's set during Christmas, okay, you know what else is a Christmas movie? Eyes Wide Shut. You know what else is a Christmas movie? Lethal Weapon. And that's fine. Whatever. Because, you can only watch George Bailey and then every time the bell rings, you can only watch that so many times. And that's like, hey, how about Gremlins? How about Lethal Weapon? How about Die Hard? Why does every Christmas movie have to be, sugary, cutesy? Why can't it be about how sometimes Christmas is hard? Christmas is a hard time for people. Why not tell this tale of,
of terrorism?
Well, I was going to say how an angel by the name of John McClane performed a Christmas miracle on the Nakatomi building.
Wow.
Kids, gather around. Uncle Barry will tell you about how John McClane saved all those well, actually, he didn't save the Barabons. And he actually slaughtered all those terrorists. But he got back together with his wife, and they had the merriest Christmas of them all. And a very special... Okay, I'm reaching. I'm really reaching. But look, it's fine. It's a Christmas movie. It's a great Christmas movie. Yeah, exactly. Who cares? It's so ridiculous that this is like a real people really get into this. Like, just let it happen. It's fine. Not every Christmas movie needs to be Dickens or
yeah. Let's get into it because our movie is 2 hours long.
Well, this episode's not going to be 2 hours long, but
no, but. There's a lot to talk about.
Oh,
this is one of our favorites.
Oh, we're gonna go scene by scene.
No,
oh yeah, cracking the knuckles. Bring it. Gonna get in my undershirt here. Gonna make fists with my toes. Okay, now I'm ready.
Okay. Well, our movie opens with John McClane on an airplane flying from New York to LA to be with his family for Christmas. And he hates to fly. And the guy next to him, he's like, when you get where you're going, you just take your shoes off and make fists with your toes. Works every time. And I'm like, no, who came up with this? This is BS.
As someone who used to, as you know all too well, you married someone who used to have a really real problem with flying. White knuckle doesn't even begin to describe it. The first 10 years of our marriage.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk all about that tonight. Anyway, all that to say, fisters, it's crap. Okay, what I think what actually does work, I will say for those of you who are in a similar situation, and it's nothing to joke about, and that's a whole other conversation about how to get over it. But the fist with your toes thing, while you're in flight. Take off your shoes, keep your socks on, rub your feet against the ground. Get a sense of the floor. I'm just completely serious about this.
Leave your socks on, though.
Yeah, leave your socks on. Yeah, don't John McClane it. Leave your socks on. But seriously, either rub your feet against the floor.
Don't be Adele Griffith.
That's our previous episode. I hope you listened to our special planes, trains, and automobiles episode. No, but seriously, it's about this sense of security because, when you're in a plane and you're nervous, it's about crunching, your hand and you're a ball of nerves. But if you get the sense of where the floor is and I get a sense of what the ground is, it helps. So,
okay,
take it from me.
Yes, and take it from me. He really did have such a fear that I think, the circulation in my arm never really quite returned.
Something to remember me by.
Okay, so John McClane gets off.
By the way, he's played by Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I know.
Did you say that yet?
Well,
I don't think you did.
Okay.
This is Bruce Willis, everybody.
Yes, Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
In his first big movie.
No.
Oh.
No, this is his third big movie.
Oh.
Bruce had made,
This is why you're the film critic.
No. I just, I don't know. On the one hand, I want to set up properly because the success of this movie is one of the greatest revenge. There's no greater revenge than success. And the success of this movie is a great career business revenge story. Willis had done 2 movies as the lead for Blake Edwards. One was called Blind Date, which was a surprise hit. I've never thought it was very good. I'm a big fan of the second film he did called Sunset. It's a bit of a cult film. Actually, it's not. I'm trying to start the cult right here, right now. I don't think the film is bad, although it was a flop when it came out and critics just really kind of circled their wagons around it. So when this movie was announced, Willis he was paid $5 million by the studio. And the studio is going, why? He is beloved for moonlighting. He is not a film actor. He's a television actor. As the prior film established, he can't open a movie on his name alone. And this movie had the stench of death around it. It was a summer film, but there was a lot of sense the studio doesn't believe in it. Everybody was kind of embarrassed. Why did they pay him $5 million? Famously on the original poster, he's barely on the poster. It's like the building is blocking out his face. So they went into the summer thinking this is clearly going to be one of the biggest bombs of the summer of '88, which is the summer of Rambo 3, Crocodile Dundee 2, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And lo and behold, it's defied every expectation.
All right. Bruce Willis. Everybody.
I think the phenomenon started with moonlighting with this film. It surprised everybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was only 8 at the time, so it wasn't surprising me, but I can appreciate it now.
Prior to this movie, what did you know him best as? Friends, right?
Friends?
Yeah, you know him from Friends, right?
I don't know. No.
Did you, had you seen the whole 9 yards?
Yes.
Okay.
I think I did.
With Matthew
I
Perry?
knew who Bruce Willis was.
Yeah, but but was The Sixth Sense your first Bruce Willis movie? Seriously, I'm just curious.
I don't know.
I don't think you were... This guy wasn't on your radar.
No, it was right? He's married to Demi Moore. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. My point.
Okay, well, back to the movie. We get to see the Nakatomi Plaza Christmas party. And, yeah, I don't know. This is like a pretty swanky office.
Oh, it's a debaucherous Christmas party. I mean, there's a lot of snow, even though it's LA, if you know what I mean. Lots of snow at this party. It's like it's time to let loose. We had a good year. And apparently the Nakatomi Corporation is controversial because of its international dealings. That was something, it was a detail that jumped out at me, I don't know, watching it with you, like maybe for the 30th or 40th time. But you get the sense, yeah, this is their big annual Christmas party. It's a huge building, and in real life, it was the Fox Tower. This was like where all the business deals were done.
So we meet Holly Gennaro,
played by Bonnie Bedelia,
who is Bruce Willis's wife, going by her maiden name, and she's getting hit on by Harry Ellis, one of her coworkers.
Ellis, the original Wolf of Wall Street. Yes, Hart Bachner. I love him in this.
He is just so full of himself.
He later became a director, and prior to this, I knew him as the guy who was just completely ridiculously infatuated with Supergirl in the movie of the same name. Yeah, I like Hart Bachner. Yeah. He did his thing as a character actor, and then he became a director.
He's really good at playing the slimy guy.
He's great in this. Yeah, I love it.
So then Holly calls home and talks to her housekeeper / nanny, Paulina, and this is where you were like, this is just too many characters.
Yeah, does this movie need Paulina the maid? And eventually they find a story use for her later, but it's like, okay, this is a lot like an Irwin Allen disaster movie. There's like 26 main characters and maybe 100 speaking parts. There's a lot of this movie could be a little tighter.
Yeah. So we find out though that they're separated kind of. And, Holly tells Paulina, like, why don't you just make up the guest room just in case he's going to stay? And then, Holly, though, like slams down the photo of her, like the family with John in it. And it's like, oh, okay, we got some issues going on. It's not marital bliss over here.
Speaking of excess characters, although this one I wish the movie actually had more of, we get Argyle, the cab driver.
Yeah.
The limo driver, rather.
Yeah. And John meets Argyle at the airport, and he's hilarious. He's one of the best side characters that this movie has.
This movie knows what it has because the film gets so violent and intense, but every time they cut back to him, it always works. I mean, seriously, like the movie already has more than enough comic relief, but whenever they just cut for a reaction shot to him, because it's always a total, whatever he's doing is a complete contrast to the story, so it's a nice little tonal shift whenever they cut to this actor and this character.
So he's talking to John, and he's wanting to know what's up with his life, and we find out that Holly's been in LA for 6 months, and that John didn't think her job would last, and that eventually she'd bring the kids back to New York. But that's not happening. Apparently Holly is very successful. So
yes, and John McClane is a tough New York cop.
Yeah. So Argyle is like, hey man, why don't you go check out the situation? I will wait for you in the parking garage. You just call me and let me know, what you want to do. And
at one point, Argyle says, let me put on some Christmas music. And he puts on Run DMC's Christmas Time in Hollis, Queens, which I love so much. But obviously the joke is that, John McClane is old school. Hip hop is not his thing. I think it's a nice little spiritual cousin to a scene in The Last Boy Scout, which came out just a couple years later. Very similar character where Bruce Willis is tied to a chair. He's being tortured by bad guys. His face is all bloodied. And this vicious villain gets in his face and he says, I want to hear you scream. And Bruce Willis says, play some rap music. Love it. It always makes me think of this moment in Die Hard.
Okay, so John, this is where he finds out that Holly has changed her name
to her maiden name.
Yeah. So he heads up to the party, but you can tell he's like he's casing the joint. He's checking things out. I don't think cops can ever turn it off.
And this is a widescreen film. Jan de Bont shot this film. This is Jan de Bont before he directed Speed and Twister and some other films like Speed 2. But Jan de Bont and McTiernan, they make this a widescreen movie. This film looks great. It has a real sense of scale. This building just seems like it's looming over the whole world. And when you're up in the 30th floor with everybody else, you do get the sense of like, okay, this is where the power meetings happen.
Mm-hmm. So a funny little thing though that John does, he's seeing all these crazy things that he doesn't see in New York, and he's always like, effing California.
Yeah, this movie has a real Jersey attitude towards California.
Yes.
And I love it. Love it.
Which I think is funny. Okay, so he meets Mr. Takagi, who's the head of this Nakatomi Corporation, and he takes John to Holly's office, and Ellis is in there just sniffing some coke.
Or he's got a cold.
What up?
We never see it. He might have a cold. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, it's the 80s. It's not like people... Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Hey, do you think...
He's like, you missed some.
Exactly. Do you think Ellis ever tried to date Holly before? You think that's just been like kind of an... I mean, this
yes,
is...
he's been flirting with her this whole time.
Well, flirting, that's a nice way of putting it. Do you think like, you know, in the pre, you know, this is decades before Me Too movement, do you think like this is a guy who's just constantly like, come on, let's go out?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like so persistent and just annoying.
Because it's established she's using him for his private bathroom.
Yeah, no. Yeah, because John is like, I think he is flirting with you. It has an eye on you. And she's like, well, I have my eye on his private bathroom.
Yeah.
So she's wise to it.
Who do you think is supplying him with his coke?
Oh.
Do you think it's Holly?
No.
She's got a side
Mr.
hustle?
Takagi. He just like has a stash in his office. He's like, if anybody needs a hit, you know, take whatever you want. It'll keep you going all night as long as you're getting your work done.
Again, it was the 80s. No, Mr. Takagi, I think I think he's a legit businessman. I think if anything, he seems like, okay, let's let the troops run loose a little bit. So they've been working really hard, but you do get the sense of like, okay, man, it's very Wolf of Wall Street up in here.
Yeah. So Holly comes into her office and sees John for the first time, and you can tell like she's definitely still into him.
Of course, it's her husband.
No, I know, but they haven't seen each other in a while.
Yeah, he's been I've been busy, you know, busting New York scum and backlog of criminals 6 miles long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Ellis is like, hey, Holly, you know, show him your watch. It's a Rolex.
The way he says it's a Rolex, I swear you could impose that and make that a Rolex ad. The way Ellis says it, it's so great. Yeah, there's a lot of actors in this movie who, you know, they've got somewhere between like 15, 20 minutes of screen time, and it's in these little increments, and they just steal their moments. And I love it when a film recognizes that, because, you know, when you have a star vehicle, it's like, okay, it's all about the star. No, in this case, like it's Bruce Willis's movie, but it feels like an ensemble piece. Okay,
so Holly takes John to kind of wash up a little bit, and they have a fight over her name and what they each think their idea of their marriage should be. And it sounds like he wants a more traditional relationship, and she does not. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, I know what your idea of our marriage should be.
Yeah, because he's New York. He's Jersey. He's very traditional, conservative in his views, and she's a California girl. Oh my gosh. I'm not going to stay in the East Coast.
That is not her.
Oh my gosh, man. What are you doing?
No, that is so not.
I'm going to go here and have a career. You stay over there and just play cop, okay?
She's not a California girl.
She's not.
Like a take charge executive.
No, she's great. She's great. I mean, the thing is, on the one hand, I think I kind of admire that they even tried this, because, I mean, let's face it, that's hard on any marriage. I mean, being a police officer, from the people we know who've been like in you know the military service, or even cops, it's obviously such. I mean, it's like a whole other life doing that. It's not just like a job you walk away from or walk in and out of.
But he could have transferred to the LA Police Department.
But he didn't want to, and I get it. He's
I know, but I'm just saying he could have been supportive of her career and kept his family together.
I think he was supportive of it, but it's like, let's try this. And also, maybe their marriage was rocky, so it's like, well, let's give each other a break. A long break. Thousands of miles of a break.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's okay. Well, here we have now the bad guys show up. We have about a 12-person crew, and they just shoot the front desk guy and the security guard, and now they're just taking charge of this building. So they lock out the elevator from the lobby to floor 29, and so nobody can leave. And then this is where Hans Gruber joins the party.
This is Alan Rickman in his film debut, listeners. Whenever I hear this, I mean, it's something I have to be reminded of. And even watching the movie, it's like, this is his first movie. He was a Broadway actor. He was in Dangerous Liaisons on Broadway and critically acclaimed. I don't know if they couldn't get a bigger actor or if they just thought, this guy, let's give him a shot. I don't know how he landed this role. But it figured, let's face it, to be stereotypical of the 80s, it's like Christopher Walken, Dennis Hopper. They got Alan Rickman, and Rickman is so confident and nuanced and interesting. This does not seem like a first time performance. Willis seems a little green at times, although he's excellent in this too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm always just blown away. Like this is a fantastic performance. In fact, it might be the best evil henchman, big bad figure that I can think of in these kinds of movies. We talked about First Blood a couple episodes back, and we talked about how good Brian Dennehy's in that. But this is to me the top of that.
Hans Gruber's way scarier.
This is the top of the list, yeah, because he's scary, but he's funny, he's charming. And he's complex, and Rickman gives him complexities that aren't always there in the script.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, they've cut the power to the building, and now we see John barefoot, squishing his toes in the carpet, and he's just like, oh, well, it really works.
It's a fantasy, folks. There's no truth to this.
So
I've tried it. It doesn't mean anything. Like the plane has landed, you're at home. Of course you're like, oh, that feels good. Of course it does.
You're not flying anymore.
Exactly. Take a bubble bath while you're at it. See how good that feels too. It doesn't matter. You can't take a bubble bath when you're in a plane. Believe me, I've tried.
Well, so John calls Argyle, and he's like, I don't know yet if I'm going to need your assistance. But Argyle's just in the back of this limo with this huge teddy bear, just rocking out. And then their phone line is cut.
Do you think this is Argyle's first week on the job?
Yeah, he said he's never done it before.
Oh, that's right.
First day.
Oh, that's right. It is his first day. You're right. Yeah, it definitely shows. Yeah, he's really enjoying this.
Yeah.
There's some. There's a VCR back there. There's a fridge. Yeah, this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, just remember that when you sign for the tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like Lee Iacocca's limousine.
Well, now we have machine gun fire, and so John is he's on high alert now.
He doesn't think to put his shoes on or, his shirt on or...
I know.
He just
He doesn't put his shoes on.
Yeah. But it's okay because, again, the film is playing... okay, it's tense. He's not going to think about his shoes at this moment. I think he would. I think anybody would. And by the way, here's the other thing, too, because over the course of the film, Willis, his clothing kind of disappears over the course of the story. Mm-hmm. And this is an office building.
No one's complaining about that.
I know. But let me just point this out. This is an office building in LA. Of course, the AC is cranked up.
Yeah, but they cut the power, so...
Still. And plus, it's nighttime at one point. Unless it's a really balmy LA night, it's probably really cold in this building.
He is sweating buckets.
Well, yeah, because he's climbing around an elevator shaft.
I think once the AC is cut, I don't think it stays super cold. But research it later.
He's working up a sweat. I think this building would be really cold. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, the bad guys are checking all the offices, but thankfully we have a naked lady to distract the bad guys from John's location.
I guess we should talk about this. What's up with that?
They were in an office getting it on. Christmas party sex.
I've seen Wolf of Wall Street. I've heard stories. Okay, I used to work at Office Max, so I know crazy things go on. I get it, listeners. Really, I'm not that naive, but is this I've had my eye on John for 6 months now?
No, I think they're just drunk and high, and they're like, yes, let's do this.
Gary from Copying is so hot.
Yeah.
Tell you what, if I could just get him alone at the Christmas party, just with some Cavassier and some Coke, we're just going to go crazy.
Yeah, totally. Why not? She's just, throwing caution to the wind.
I understand the Mile High Club. I really do. I don't get this.
You don't get Office,
No!
It's a little taboo. They're like, hey, we're just going to go in here. No?
No, I don't. No, not unless there's a lock on the door, and I can't. No.
Okay.
No.
Well,
freaks me out.
The fact that she has no shirt on, though, that is the reason.
You think that's the reason why?
Yeah, because the
Boy,
guy...
what an 80s plot point. Yeah. Okay, he's not going to know it's Bruce Willis because we got a babe in this scene.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're going to get an R rating, so well done, guys.
So he escapes and he goes to another floor. He realizes there's no phone at all. And then this is where Hans Gruber addresses the group and talking about corporate greed. And this is one of his, like...
Nakatomi's legacy of greed around the globe, colonizing and exploiting Indonesia. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Man, this is like Enron.
No, but this is just Hans Gruber making up crap to, like...
Well, come on, this is before the internet. You don't think he has any kind of I mean, he was a guerrilla soldier. Like, you don't think like there's any truth to this?
No, I'm not saying there's no truth to it. I'm saying he's smart enough to have this plan in place so that he can distract people from his real intentions, which is just to steal the bearer bonds.
So what you're saying is they could very well have knocked over the corporate headquarters of Toys R Us and it would have been the same thing?
Yes.
Your international way of promoting greed and plastic crap to kids everywhere.
Yes.
But we really want your bearer bonds.
Yeah, plus your giraffe, offensive to giraffes.
It is an exploitation of giraffes worldwide.
Yes.
Giraffes do not talk nor wear clothing.
And they shouldn't be in zoos. Should be free.
And your propaganda of telling kids that they should not grow up because if they did, they wouldn't be a Toys R Us kid. You people are monsters.
Yeah. He would come up with like something.
Okay, so you really think it's because I think he's political.
No, because he even says like when they're like, oh, like later on when he tells them all of these, hostages he wants released, the guys are like, do you think that they're going to do it? He's like, who cares? He literally does not care.
He's just a bank robber.
Yeah,
Got it.
He's just a glorified bank robber. That's kind of what we find out. So he figures out who Takagi is, takes him to his office, and he wants the 640 million in bearer bonds.
Yeah.
And Takagi's like, I don't have the code that you want. Like, I don't even have access to that. It's all the way in Japan.
I don't have that code. You broke in here to access our computer? Any information you could get when they wake up in Tokyo in the morning, they'll change it. You won't be able to blackmail our executives, threaten our profit.
Sit down.
Mr. Takagi, I'm really not interested in your computer. But I need the code key because I am interested in the $640 million in negotiable bearer bonds that you have locked in your vault. And the computer controls the vault.
You want money? What kind of terrorists are you?
Who said we were terrorists? The code, please.
It's useless to you. There are 7 safeguards on our vault, and the code key is only one of them. You'll never get it open.
Then there's no reason not to tell it to us.
I told you. It's not over yet.
It's a very nice suit, Mr. Takagi. To be ashamed to ruin it. I'm going to count to 3. There will not be a 4. Give me the code. 1, 2, 3.
I don't know it. I'm telling you. Get on the jet to Tokyo and ask the chairman. I'm telling you, you're just gonna have to kill me.
Okay.
What I always think of is my dear friend Mike Mitchell, actor and friend and author. The first time I ever watched this movie with him, he'd never seen it before, and we had a DVD copy of it, and it had this featurette where you can edit this scene however you wanted. They have like a list of shots, and there was all these you could take all of the footage that was accumulated and edit this scene however you want. So like you get the cuts to Bruce Willis watching the scene as it happens, cut to Alan Rickman, cut to the actor sweating it out as Takagi. And what we ended up doing was I think there's about 7 or 8 different shots of Takagi getting his brains blown out.
Oh, no.
So we just took all 7 of those shots in a row and just watched it from every angle.
Oh my gosh.
It was hilarious because it's this dummy, it's this dummy they rigged with, exploding head. It was just, it was like a scene from Scanners. It was just like, it was like 7 shots of, we were just laughing hysterically.
Oh man. Okay.
That's what happens when you let 21-year-old boys edit a grown-up film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that they had like a real editor for this.
They did. They did not trust us as editors. Yeah.
So Hans ends up killing Takagi.
Yes.
And so now I think this is the moment where you know that like he's serious.
Yeah, and at this point, McClane is saying it to himself. He does that often in this movie. He's like, Argyle, tell me you heard the shots. And there's a hilarious cut to Argyle in the back of the limo talking to a babe sitting next to the bear, blasting music.
Yeah.
And by the way, let's talk about the music because later on, Bruce Willis, John McClane, has the line, "Who's driving that car, Stevie Wonder?" He's listening to Stevie Wonder.
Oh.
Argyle is listening to Skeletons, which is one of my favorite 80s Stevie Wonder tunes. He's blasting Skeletons in the back seat of the limo.
Yeah. I know. I do love all the cuts to Argyle.
It's
just dancing and laughing and like having a party.
A great contrast. Yeah, from the rest of the movie.
Yeah, because John's just like, oh my gosh, I'm dying up here. And Argyle's like getting jiggy with
living
it.
the dream. Yeah.
Okay, so John does pull the fire alarm, and the bad guys turn it off and call the cops and tell them, like, hey, that was an accident. Everything's fine. But then they know which fire alarm, like which floor he's on. Mm-hmm. And so the guy comes up, and there's an epic, like, fight scene.
Every action scene in this movie is big, but they just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And these one-on-one fight scenes, they are rough. I love that it's a brawl because something I was noticing today with action movies, and I love modern action movies, but most of the fights are very krav maga. They're like there's or jujitsu, like it's a very specific fighting style.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like you could tell this was choreographed, and even if it's something awesome like John Wick, you could tell like there's the choreography. In this case, like, no, I mean, these look like these are 2 people who are struggling to kill each other. And, every blow that's hit, it's like, it's hard.
Okay. But it's still good choreography in the sense that it's not just 2 dudes like rolling around on the ground.
Great, but I agree. No, it's not the ending of The Postman. I agree. No. Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is that, it has that real, like, it's animalistic. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that guy, in my notes, I just wrote Blondie because I don't know his name.
Well, this ends up being the brother of Carl, played by Alexander Goodenough. Yeah.
Yeah. So John wins this brawl, and now he has the walkie-talkie. He has all of Carl's brother's, stuff. And so he puts him in the elevator and just writes on his sweatshirt, "Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho."
Little sadistic, don't you think?
Well, I mean, it's funny but it does give away that he's, this element in the building that they didn't plan on.
And you're right. It's creating this sense of mystery because, I mean, obviously the truth is much less intimidating. He's a barefoot, out of his depth cop who's got a gun and his wits, and that's it. Yeah. And he's up against these guys. Yeah.
But now he has the walkie-talkie, and so he's like taking notes on who all these guys are, and he's writing down their names. But this part is the best. He goes to the roof to transmit, and he's trying to call 911
Oh, you
through
love this
the
scene.
Walkie-talkie.
First time I showed you this was the scene you laughed the hardest at.
Because the lady, she's like, "This channel is reserved for emergencies only," and he's like, "No shit, lady. Do I look like I'm ordering a pizza?" So the guys are like, they can hear him transmitting, and they're like, he's on the roof, like, go get him. So now there's a gunfight on the roof, and so the 911 operators are like, all right, obviously something's going on, but they don't know what it is, because they're telling him they're going to report him to like the FCC for violations. He's like, good, report me, come on down here. And so now we have our cop played by Reginald
Bell Johnson. Yeah.
So he gets he's brought into the movie, and
it's Al. Al is the name of the character, but even my notes I wrote, Carl Winslow gets in his car.
Carl Winslow. His name's Al.
With apologies to Reginald VelJohnson. I know you played more than one role in your long career. I apologize, but I still wrote, played by Carl Winslow.
Now we have John in the air shaft. He's just like running through the building and just trying to figure out ways to escape and how to like maneuver around these guys. And, he lights his lighter to see, come out to the coast. We'll get together. We'll have a few laughs.
Well done.
Mm-hmm.
That shot became a mural on the side of the Fox building the year the last Die Hard movie came out. I don't know if it's still there, but it used to be this giant mural they had on the side of the building, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so Al shows up and he's just like, it all looks fine. There's nothing, but I'll go in and talk to the front desk guy. So he goes in there and that guy...
The guy who looks like an evil Huey Lewis.
Yes, evil Huey Lewis.
Well, most of these guys look like they could be backup singers in like 80s bands like Genesis or Kajagoogoo. Most of these guys look like they're like when they're not terrorists, they're they're on the top 40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he plays it off like, oh yeah, go take a look around, whatever. Like he's actually really good at playing a fake security guard.
He's really good at being a terrorist. Yeah. So good at his job.
So finally, Al's just like, forget this, but Bruce Willis is up, up higher, and he breaks the window, and he's
drops a corpse on the car.
He's taking out some more bad guys.
But it's cool because at first I wasn't always. After seeing the film a few times, I was made clear what goes on here because it's McClane that drops the corpse, but then it's a different floor with a different terrorist firing at the police car because it's like, okay, this guy knows what's up now that there's a corpse on his car. So it's like, let's kill this guy before he can call for backup. And while this scene, because it's pretty spectacular. So because Carl Winslow's in reverse, he's like, bam. And there's a quick shot of Argyle back in the limo partying his ass off. It's so funny.
Yeah, and John's just like, welcome to the party, pal.
If they do a movie, like a spin-off movie that it's like Cosmopolis or that one with Tom Hardy a few years ago where it's just a movie with Argyle in the back of the limo, I would totally watch that.
Oh.
Just like the Argyle side of Die Hard.
That would be
I
hilarious.
would be so on board with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would watch that.
I think that'd be hysterical. And, and he's like partying, and he's talking to the babes, and he's like, blasting the Janet Jackson videos. And you hear like the machine gun fire distantly in the background. And you hear like people screaming, and you hear like the car and the helicopter. Oh, I would love that.
And you hear his boss like yelling at him, like, you're still at this one job, Yeah. Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
All right, so now the media is alerted, the cavalry is arriving, and John calls Hans on the radio, and this is where, that Hans is kind of like, you're just some, American who's watched too many action movies and
too many Westerns,
yeah. And he's like, what's your name? And he tells him his name is Roy Rogers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is where his famous yippee-ki-yay line first plays.
I don't know why you're censoring yourself, Jill. Let's just go for it. You've already given us an R rating earlier, so just keep going, Jules.
You've already given us an R rating.
It's an R-rated movie. I mean, why can't this podcast be R-rated?
So Powell talks to.
Oh, I'm sorry. Really quickly.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. Oh. So like the yippee-ki-yay thing. It's not just that Bruce Willis says the line. Watch Hans' reaction, which is hysterical
because he's so confused.
Well, I think it's confusing. It's just like, okay.
Like, is that a thing?
Like, these Americans, man, they're weird with their wordplay.
Yeah, very weird.
So then we meet William Atherton. In my notes, I wrote, he's playing like a Kirkland brand Geraldo Rivera. Atherton's a great actor, okay?
Oh, this is the media guy.
Yeah. Because let me remind people, because people forget this. He's in this movie called The Day of the Locust, which is one of the best movies about Hollywood ever, and he's awesome in that. But the thing is, he did this little movie called Ghostbusters, and that led to basically a career of playing these sniveling, whiny, awful, annoying authority types. and he's so good at it. People just like, okay, we're going to put him in this. We're going to put him in Real Genius. Like he kind of like this, he got typecast. And all the same, like he's great in this movie, but I just want to remind people that he's actually a really great actor because no one really remembers that. But anyway, he's awesome in this. He's playing like the definitive awful tabloid journalist.
Mm-hmm. All right, now Powell and John are on the walkies, and John just tells him all that he knows, but doesn't give away that he's a cop. Yeah. But Al's smart enough. He's like, I think he's a cop.
Yeah.
And then
these back and forth scenes are great, by the way.
Yeah, I love it when they talk to each other on the walkie-talkie.
It's weird that they have got such good chemistry and they only have one scene together in this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, Willis and Carl Winslow are killer in this movie.
So then now Holly goes and talks to Hans, and he's like, what idiot put you in charge? And she's like, you did when you killed my boss. And I'm like,
that's a risky thing to say. I wouldn't. Did she have a little bit of Ellis's booger sugar before she said that? Because shoot, man.
I was just like, man, the balls on that lady. Like, she's awesome.
Because they're killing people tonight.
Yeah. I mean, if I was the second in command and my boss was just got his brains blown out, I'd be like, okay, we're just going to lay low, everybody.
Or I would follow what she said with, kidding!
Just kidding.
Sorry, I'm an American.
And then Hans would be like, yeah, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
So, she's kind of expressing that everybody has needs to go to the bathroom. And he's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Then Argyle does learn about the attack from his little TV inside.
I love it so
he's
much.
kind of like, wait, what's going on? Like in my building? And he realizes he's locked in the garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty great. So now we have the SWAT team, the FBI, and
we got the guy who I always know as the principal from the Breakfast Club. Like this movie, I think maybe has a few too many stupid characters. It probably has more like Paul Gleason as the LAPD deputy chief, and he becomes a foil for Carl Winslow because like he doesn't believe Carl and
Al.
And, and Mr. Winslow is like trying to convince the LAPD chief, like, no, like, again, like, yeah, he's a cop, whatever. So, like, Paul Gleason is playing a guy just whatever the truth is, he will not acknowledge it.
Yeah.
It's very, I mean, if this movie has a bone to pick with anybody, it's people in Los Angeles.
Oh, really?
Don't you think?
Well, I think it has a bone to pick with.
It's the street smart guy from New Jersey who's like playing all the angles in this movie.
Yeah, but I think the bone is with the feds and the head of the LAPD because they're just like, we have to do things by the book, and they're not willing to like think outside the box at all.
Unlike John McClane.
Yeah, and Al,
Carl Winslow. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the SWAT team gets, they light up the building. The SWAT team tries to get in. You love this, where the bad guys are like
the most important scene of the film, where this terrorist who's I'll pull up his name, a character actor who was also in Big Trouble in Little China. He mans because like any good terrorist, he goes where he's needed, which is behind a candy counter, and while he's there,
while he's waiting to see who he's gonna shoot, he has like a chocolate bar.
I mean, he has a Hershey's bar, and then they cut to him later. It looks like he's having a Crunch bar. I wish this movie just kept cutting back to this guy. This is like just like wrappers everywhere.
Yeah.
He like goes as far down like he has a Zagnut bar, then it's like a Fruit Nut bar. Like just you don't know. This could be your last stand. Just do it, man.
Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah, man. Keep going.
Keep going. Yeah, you were like, this is great.
Like I love this guy. I think it's let's see. Al Lung. Yeah, Al Lung. Yeah, I always remember him from Big Trouble in Little China. He's such a cool-looking character actor. He's like one of the most recognizable. And, I mean, he's the most relatable of the terrorists.
Oh, because he has a chocolate obsession?
Yeah, because I thought, the whole thing about being a terrorist, I'm not really down for that. But, this guy just likes to sit behind a counter. Like, he's got his machine gun. He's like, ooh, a Snickers. Yeah, I get it.
What about...
There's me in this movie.
The tech... terrorist guy.
Oh, the techie guy? Oh, yeah. Theo. Yeah, Theo. He's irritating, which I think is cool. I think that's a nice idea. I like that the tech guy he's he's so different from the rest of them, and he's obnoxious, but clearly Hans recognizes the value in him.
Well, he's the only one who can get into this vault, and so he knows he is the only one with this particular set of skills.
He seems like he and Ellis are buying from the same guy. Don't you think? Because he has that, that exuberance and confidence that he really shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's the one who's watching, the security cameras, and he's like telling the terrorists like where the SWAT people are. And yeah, he just has that annoying way.
He's kind of insufferable, but the editing in this film is good enough where it keeps cutting back to our dozens of characters. Like, for one thing, I'm always happy to see what Theo's doing because he's fun, and same thing with Argyle. I think the way the movie juggles all the narrative threads, I think it works.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the bad guys, they basically get like a huge, I don't know, rocket launcher.
And one of the rocket launcher terrorists, by the way, is Wilhelm von Homburg, who played Viggo the Carpathian a year later in Ghostbusters 2. So keep an eye out, folks. Viggo the Carpathian, back when he was alive, before he was a ghost that haunts a painting in Ghostbusters 2. He's loading the missile that destroys the tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, the guy, Theo's just like, come on, like, move it, guys. And it's like, these people are carrying like massive weapons.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they have to like bolt it into the ground before they can shoot it.
It's pretty cool. But again, like, these are guerrilla soldiers. Clearly they've done this before. They're quite fast. They're very good at it.
Yeah. So SWAT guys are getting shot at. The armored car, gets a rocket launcher sent to it. And then, John is just like, what are you doing? So he sends a bunch of C4 down the elevator shaft to just like get their attention. Like, hello, I told you
great.
There is C4 in this building and you're just going to like do the playbook.
Yeah.
So
it's an amazing moment. Because I love it that it takes everybody by surprise, and part of the building just explodes. It's a great bit, and the part where the fire rolls up the elevator shaft. Yeah, to put it mildly, this is an exciting movie. The action just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The special effects are wonderful. Everybody's doing it with conviction, and McTiernan is he wound up being one of our greatest action movie directors, but more on that later.
So then the sniveling chief of police is like, I want to talk to that guy, to John. And he's like, you just destroyed a building. John's just like, oh no, who cares? And then you see Argyle listening in to the conversation.
Yeah, laughing. It's great. It's great.
Really funny.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, you relate to the chocolate guy.
You relate to Argyle?
Yeah. I relate to Argyle just like listening in on a conversation and just like cracking up because it's so funny.
I think, what I think could have worked, because Devereaux White plays Argyle. He's so good in this. I wonder if instead of the teddy bear, it's like him and his girlfriend on a date. Do you think that could have worked?
No.
No? It has to be him doing the solo thing?
Yeah, because
I still want my Argyle standalone movie where it's him and the teddy bear in the back and it's just him in the limo. I still want that. I'm still down for that.
How would you realistically, like, how would he have a girl in the limo if he picks up John at the airport and drives him
Hey, baby, remember who this is? That's right. Hey, you know where the Nakatomi building is? Okay, meet me in the parking lot at 10:30. This guy's going upstairs.
Yeah, but he's locked in.
Well, they're both locked in together.
So she has to arrive before the terrorists.
In the subtitle for the movie, when it finally gets released, would be Die Hard, Date Night.
And then, okay. I mean, if she showed up before the terrorists, and she's down there and they're like having a little party, yeah, I think that could have worked.
Yeah,
that could have been funny, But then
I'm with you. I like the dynamic as is. I'm just saying, like, he's so dynamic and the character is so fun, and that scenario down there is so enjoyable. He's doing fine with the teddy bear, but obviously I think it would have been fun if he had someone else to play off of.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, now this is where Ellis tries to negotiate with Hans.
And he sprechen Sie Tag, huh? Oh, man. Whatever his Coke got dusted with, man.
Yeah.
This is, wow. Powerful stuff.
He's like, Hans, booby, baby. Like, okay, This is bad. This is bad, Ellis.
I figure you're here to negotiate. Am I right?
You're amazing. You figured this all out already.
Hey, business is business. You use a gun, I use a fountain pen. What's the difference? Let's put it in my terms. You're here in a hostile takeover. You grab us for some green mail, but you didn't expect some poison pill was gonna be running around in the building. Am I right? Hans, Bobby, I'm your white knight.
I must have missed 60 minutes. What are you saying?
I can give them to you.
I don't think Gordon Gekko ever had this kind of confidence.
No. Gordon Gekko wouldn't put himself in like physical danger like this.
Gordon Gekko could, I think he would be good at negotiating, but I think he can read the room better than Ellis can.
Yeah.
Ellis is acting like he's a game show host.
Yeah, he's like, I can get him for you. I can get John for you. Mind you, he just met John for the first time.
Yeah.
And spent 2 minutes with him.
Yeah, and he's acting like he's Richard Dawson on like Family Feud. Like, yeah, it's real smarmy. Yeah, again, like I love the choices the actor's making because it's very broad, but we also hate this character, so it's kind of fun to watch just how doomed he is over the course of a couple minutes.
Like the best part is when he's talking to John Ellis and he's like, "Give them the detonators or they'll kill me," and then he like gives a thumbs up. Gives Hans like a thumbs up, like, yeah, pretend you're gonna kill me.
And I guess this scene is suspenseful, not because I don't really care about Ellis, but there is a moment where you think Ellis is going to tell Hans who John's wife is.
Right.
That moment, I remember the first time I saw it, it's like, oh God. And it winds up being like, oh, you're being a dick. Like,
yeah,
get off the phone, man. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just trying to like end this night, like end the hostage situation, but he's not doing a good job.
Doing the opposite. Yeah.
So John does try to save him by saying like, Hans, I don't know him. I just met him.
He doesn't know the kind of guy that you are.
Yeah. But Ellis gets his brains blown out. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, Ellis.
Moment of silence for Ellis.
And then, all right, so now Hans, okay, this is the part where he asks, he talks to the chief of police and he's like, I want my revolutionary brothers and sisters to be set free. And he starts naming like all of these, random people around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy's like, do you think they're going to do it? And he's like, who cares? Like, so again, it's all BS. He knows the playbook by heart. And so he's just making the feds, he's just making them do busy work. All right, well, this is now where the FBI shows up. I was a little premature.
I don't like this. Yeah, the agents Johnson and Johnson.
No relation.
The movie does not need this.
They
need the helicopter to crash. That's it. But
they do need the FBI to show up.
I guess, but
technically.
And I like Robert Davi. Robert Davi is a great character actor. Both these guys are good, and they're fine in it. But I don't like this part of it.
Okay, well, they take over, and of course, in every movie, the regular cops hate it when the feds take over. Yeah. So you have that whole thing. Okay, but now your favorite scene where we have Hans on the roof checking things out.
Yeah,
and he runs into John, and this is where they kind of realize who each other is, but they don't tell each other.
It's an interesting bit because it's cat and mouse. As someone reminded me recently, the idea, and for me it doesn't quite play. The idea is that when Hans blows Takagi's brains out, John can't see who Hans is. He hears him, but he can't see him. I don't know if I completely buy that. But that's supposed to be an added element of suspense here because John has heard what Hans sounds like and vice versa, but they've never seen each other.
Right. I buy that because...
You don't think John McClane could have seen Hans from that vantage point underneath the desk? I think he could have.
And I don't think it was very clear, and I don't think it was like a straight on, maybe a side profile briefly.
I think it's a little bit of a reach, but okay. And as you were noting too, like it's a little fuzzy exactly when... I mean, the actors play the moment of recognition pretty well. But at the same time, it is a little bit like the cat and mouse goes on back and forth a few times because it's like they're shocked to see each other and they both play it very neutral so that they don't give it away. And then it becomes like this slow realization of who the other person is. But, I'm being critical of it. I love this scene. This is my favorite in the film. I love that these two characters are meeting each other this way. I love that they're in full performance mode. The whole bit where Hans could just grab a gun and blow him away. But, it becomes like, okay, let's see where this goes. And it's fun to see Hans in a completely different mode here. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's doing this grift as hard as he can. And
then when John hands him the gun, but it's empty, Hans doesn't know that. And then he goes to shoot him, and he's like, "What do you think? I'm an idiot?"
And then the ding in the elevator rings, and he goes, "You're saying?" And then the movie explodes into violence. This is like, so thrilling. It's so gory. There's a shot in it that's pretty spectacular where it's underneath a desk, and John McClane empties his machine gun into a guy's kneecaps, and it looks like his kneecaps just turn into Hamburger Helper. It's wow. Like, man, I forgot how crazy violent this movie is.
Yep. And then Hans knows he's barefoot, so he just tells Carl, shoot the glass. And it's just an all-out...
It's cool.
Insanity.
I like it. Yeah, it justifies the whole barefoot, shirtless thing. It's like, we'll make it part of the story. He's going to use it against him, which is, very wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So he gets away. Now we have, Theo's keeping Hans up to date on where they are with the vault. Yeah. And the FBI shuts off the power. The vault opens, and
Ode to Joy plays on the soundtrack for the first time. I love it so much. I love Ode to Joy. I don't think I've ever loved it more in this movie because, for one thing, it's instrumental, and then over the end credits, which we'll talk about later, it's in German, which I just think it sounds better in German than in English.
Yeah.
Joyful. No, like
I don't
German.
think I realized that.
Yeah, it's better. It's better in German.
Well, now John is pulling glass shards out of his feet.
Man,
this is
wonderful. Okay, action movies in this decade are rarely, if ever, this character driven, and we never see characters this vulnerable. I mean, the wonderful contrast. The same summer that this movie comes out, it's the Rambo 3 scene I've talked about in prior episodes, where Rambo has been shot. He's got a hole through one side of his torso and another. He peppers some gunpowder on it, sets it on fire, and goes, "Ugh!" and the wound gets cauterized right then and there. Versus this, where John McClane is bleeding profusely from his feet, and he's pulling shards of glass out of his feet. He's crying.
Yeah, he's talking to Al.
Yeah, and then Al matches his vulnerability and tells him a story about why he is the kind of cop that he is. And it's beautiful. Carl Winslow should have got an Oscar nomination for this performance.
No, it is really touching.
Listen, man, I'm starting to get a bad feeling up here. I want you to do something for me. I want you to find my wife. Don't ask me how. By then, you'll know how. I want you to tell her something. I want you to tell her that... tell her it took me a while to figure out what a jerk I've been. But, that when things started to pan out for her, I should have been more supportive. And, I just should have been behind her more. Tell her that she's the best thing that ever happened to a bum like me. She's heard me say I love you 1,000 times. She never heard me say I'm sorry. And I want you to tell her that, Al. I want you to tell her that John said that he was sorry. Okay? You got that, man?
Yeah, I got it, John. But you can tell her that yourself. You just watch your ass and you'll make it out of there, you hear me?
Yeah, like I said, it's up to the man upstairs.
Terry Gilliam has said that he sought out hiring Bruce Willis for 12 Monkeys based on this scene. It's like, okay, this is a guy who is playing, a macho cop, but you look at him in this scene like he is vulnerable it's like this guy can clearly, he's got a lot of abilities in his toolbox as an actor, and I completely agree. Mm-hmm. And let me just say really quickly, because I don't want to forget this, when this film came out, the reviews were not kind. I do remember one vividly. I had it in this magazine that said, "Oh, Die Hard's great, but Bruce Willis is acting. Let's just say the Fox Tower is a better actor than he is."
I disagree. That's terrible.
It's really mean. People went after him. They went after him because he got $5 million for it, and everyone's like, they overpaid him. They shouldn't have paid him this much. And I will admit, I will be the first to admit, I remember vividly watching Entertainment Tonight with my mom in the afternoon, and it's like, now a scene from Die Hard. And at this point, we knew Willis as David Addison from Moonlighting. We'd never, this is the first time. So they showed just and we'll talk about it in a second. Well, they showed the rooftop scene where Willis jumps off the rooftop. That whole sequence they showed on Entertainment Tonight. And we were laughing because it's like, is this like a parody of an action movie? How silly to see this actor in this. And look, we're watching this scene completely out of context.
You're 11 and you're laughing at Bruce Willis.
I was 11. I was laughing at Bruce because, again, like, it just seems so ridiculous. I mean, like, this guy, it would be like seeing Tim Allen in that context, like a guy who I only knew as a TV actor at that point, a comedy TV actor. And that scene out of context, it seemed kind of ridiculous. But anyway, to say the least, by this point in the film, you're completely on board. And he nails it from the very beginning because there is a world weariness. There's a sadness. Willis's best performances have always reminded me of Bogart. It's not only because like he's got the lines in his face, you got a guy who's tired, you got a guy who's like carrying a lot of emotions on his shoulders.
Well, now we have, John trying to figure out why Hans was on the roof. He's like, Hans, what were you doing up there? Talking to himself. And then he finds all the C4, like enough to destroy the entire building. And then Carl finds John, and this is where they have their epic final fight.
Carl's played by the late Alexander Goodenough. I think most people remember him from Witness, where it's like he's basically fighting Harrison Ford over Kelly McGillis. Goodenough was an acclaimed ballet dancer, and boy, can you tell look how graceful he is during this fight. It's a very different kind of fight than before. I don't know if his martial arts holds up, but in terms of his movements, it's beautiful versus Willis, who's just throwing these punches. This is another fantastic fight scene. At one point, Willis takes him by the hair and it's smacking his head. It's like, again, it's rough. It's great.
Yeah, and hangs him by a chain.
Yeah, that part's really rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now our slimy reporter goes to Holly's house.
Oh, I hate this scene so much.
Threatens Paulina with the INS.
I hate this.
And puts her kids on TV. And then that's when Hans figures out who Holly is.
Yeah, I think there might have been a cleaner, easier way to get to this plot point because it's all about the revelation.
Yeah, about who Holly is.
Yeah, I don't know that we really need another scene with Paulina, let alone, but at the same time, we're trying, the movie is establishing there's a punchline, for a literal punchline with William Atherton at the end of the film that the movie's building towards. But again, I think the film is already very busy, but okay. Okay.
So now Hans knows that Holly is married to John, and so he's like, "Yeah, you're coming with me because you're going to be my hostage." And then all the other people are taken up to the roof, and this is now that Carl is dead. John is like, "All of you, like, get off the roof because it's going to blow." And then we have our feds, Johnson and Johnson, just like riding around on these helicopters, like talking about Vietnam.
Yeah. And there's a quick scene earlier where Johnson and Johnson want the power in the building cut off. And the guy who cuts the power is Rick Duckerman, playing this hard hat wearing city worker. Yeah. Rick Duckerman was the annoying neighbor in The Burbs.
Oh,
yeah, I wanted to point that out, that he's actually in this. He's basically, and by the way, he plays almost the same bit in Gremlins too. Anyway, fun fact. So this is the amazing scene where John McClane, he does a really heroic thing. He scares the hell out of the hostages and fires a machine gun in the air, gets them off of the roof. So the hostages are running back downstairs, and he stays up there. And in a moment's notice, he's like, "Okay, like I'm going to tie this
hose around my waist,
this fire hose around my waist, and jump off the building as it explodes." It's a spectacular shot. It still looks amazing. It still looks like a real building goes up. I mean, Richard Edlund was Oscar nominated for these special effects, and they still look great. You can't really tell where the model work begins and ends. So Willis does a Tarzan down the side of the building. And again, this is the scene that I saw out of context. I'm like, that looks ridiculous. Watch it in the context of the movie. It's pretty amazing. And I got to say, there's a shot that it really I kind of grip something every time I see it. It's the shot Willis smashes through the window, which is spectacular, but the receiving end of the fire hose, which has the big crank, falls off the side of the building, and it's pulling Willis down because he's still got it around his waist. So the shot, the POV, it's a POV shot of Willis being pulled down by the fire hose rack. It always freaks me out because, I mean, he's getting pulled. There's no way to stop it. And there's these pieces of wood that are very carefully, they're helping, the momentum. Anyway, I'm in my 40s. I've seen this movie how many times? Every time I see it,
he's gonna go off.
I always grip something like, oh my God. Yeah, it scares me. Yeah.
Well, he does untie himself, and
yeah, the movie doesn't end there.
No, but then we get to see Argyle, finally have his big hero moment.
Yes, he does. Yeah,
and he sees
he sees Theo.
Yeah, in an ambulance, and he takes his limo and he runs it into the ambulance, and then he punches Theo out, and he's so proud of himself.
It's funny because, I mean, our hero McClane is up 30 stories, killing bad guys and saving the day. And Argyle in his world, this is the most heroic. This is his big heroic moment, which is great. Yeah,
which I think is fun.
Yeah.
All right, now John, he's shirtless, he's sweaty, he tapes a gun to his back, and this is when he goes in to save Holly.
Yeah.
I really like this scene.
It's great. I mean, when Willis appears in the doorframe, he is in silhouette and there's these sparks coming off the wall. It feels mythic. Yeah. It feels like this is the final showdown. This is the true, they've been making allusions to Westerns. Like, this is the good cowboy and the bad cowboy meeting for the last time. It does feel like, oh man, this is it. Mm-hmm. And I love it in Willis because he finds the humor in almost every scene. He goes, "Hi, honey."
Well, he does end up saving Holly,
but there's that moment where, it looks like Hans is going to take her with him.
Yeah, because he's holding onto her watch.
Yeah, Rickman, it's in slow motion. There's a moment where he kind of he turns to the camera, looks right at her. It always kind of chills me. And then he does that scary fall backwards. Mm-hmm. And, Rickman really did that. I mean, he fell onto a blue screen balloon, but it was it's like a 2 or 3 story drop falling backwards. And they using blue screen effects, they put the background in later. But I mean, he actually was falling backwards off a high perch. And apparently the director, John McTiernan, said, yeah, we said we're going to drop you on 3, and apparently they dropped him on 2. So the reaction on his face is the real deal.
Oh, yeah, smart.
Yeah, I don't know that Rickman really liked that, but yeah, it's an iconic movie moment, and boy, does it look scary and so incredible as we're watching him fall and the lights in the background. It's
and then all the cops
shot.
Are watching him fall from the ground, and they're like, "I hope that's a terrorist."
Yeah.
Well. Okay, so John and Holly hug and kiss, even though he's all bloody and sweaty, and they're just happy to be alive.
Officer Powell and McClane meet, and it's like, oh, this is a brotherhood among cops. Mm-hmm. It really is yeah, you do get a sense of the camaraderie, the brotherhood that's been established over the course of the film. It's nice.
Yes, and then Carl shows up.
Carl is still alive.
I don't know how Carl gets down from the chain that's around his neck.
I think the implication is if you watch the last scene where Carl is hanging by the chains, it looks like he might have his fingers over the chain, maybe keeping a little bit of airflow going. He was just waiting for his moment. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Yeah. And Al saves the day by actually shooting him. And he hadn't pulled his gun on anybody.
Officer Powell returns to being a stone cold killer. Hooray. I guess.
And you were noting that there's just
There's so much paper.
Yeah, and
because like, is that the bearer bonds? I'm like,
I think it's just office copier
does Nakatomi building? I mean, do they make paper? Is it like Dunder Mifflin? It's crazy how much paper is raining from this building. There's an unnatural amount.
I think all the copier machines exploded.
You figured the paper would be on fire, but yeah, no. I mean, it's raining like snow. It's look, it's a cool visual, but it's at the same time like, why is there still paper falling out of this building? Unless it's like the bearer bonds. Were there bearer bonds on every floor?
No, I think it's just copier paper. I think it's just funny. Like it's supposed to. I think that John McTiernan was like, "It's LA. We can't have snow, so let's."
Do you think it's like
paper.
Xerox copies of Ellis's ass that he was like handing out to everybody at the party? It was like one of those things.
Oh man, the last thing he ever did.
This is how we remember him.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, the end credits roll. It's Ode to Joy in German.
No, Holly punches out.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, to set up the movie really needed. Yeah, punches out Wayne Atherton. Did you get that?
Yeah. And John tells, he's not going to talk to the cops because he's like, I want a full report. And he's like, I'm not doing that. So they get into Argyle's limo and kiss and drive off.
Let me talk about Michael Kamen's wonderful score for a second. It's quirky. That's one of the things I love about the music to this film. Like the main theme, it sounds like out-of-tune jingle bells. You notice that? Like the main, like it sounds like these jingle bells that are just a little tinny, a little out of tune. But it's a really quirky kind of score. Like it's not consistently, it's just not like the typical 80s music score. It's not all drum machine. It's very orchestral. It's beautiful. The person who told me this movie was good, which I thought was pretty cool, actually, and I have a fond memory of this, because this movie opens and, again, like the reviews are bad, and I was really paying attention to this summer. This is like, I think, the first summer where I was really watching like box office, and I was really attentive, like what was opening on a week-to-week basis, because Roger Rabbit came out. Roger Rabbit's a big movie for me. So my father sees this movie opening weekend, and he comes home and he's raving about it. My father was the first person I ever met who like loved Die Hard. He's like, you got to see it, Bear. He's like, oh yeah, it's rated R, but like, I think you could handle it. And he's like, oh, Willis is so funny in this. Like, he's not playing David Addison. It's my father raved about this movie, and I'm like, really? The one where he jumps out of the building without his shirt on? That's that dumb looking movie. No, like my dad was the first person I met who like was like, this is like a great film. Like, really? And of course, and the movie didn't even open up at number one. I don't think it ever hit number one. It just it hung in there, but like the word of mouth on it was just like, it made it one of the biggest hits of the year. It was a total shock, total surprise. It beat every other action movie that came out that summer. And Bruce Willis, suddenly the $5 million is like, yeah, we got him at a bargain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The film wouldn't work if we didn't care about John McClane, because, I mean, this was the age of the super muscle, roided out action hero, whether we're talking about Chuck Norris or all the way up to Arnold and Sly, where all those guys, they do their movies shirtless. They do their movies, with the biggest body counts, the biggest budgets. And this is that kind of a movie, except it does seem at times like John McClane could really eat it, and it's even the scene where he's talking to Al over the walkie-talkie in the bathroom when he's pulling out the glass. You do get the sense like this could be his last stand. This could be the last conversation he ever has. The movie could end where he dies. It really could.
Because we didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So and I think that's one of the things that's important, because a lot of these movies, it's like, no. Sly is going to be alive at the end of The Specialist. There's no question. But in this movie, like you do get a sense like he might die hard after all.
Yeah, we don't know who's going to die hard.
As opposed to hardly dying, which is another title. That was another thing people said when it came out. Like, they named this movie after a battery. So stupid.
I mean,
everybody like had their poison pens out for this film, and it wound up it.
Yeah, and look who laughed all the way to the bank. Okay, is there any scene that you would change?
I think you can find a way to cut Johnson & Johnson out of this movie and the film would remain the same. I think you could just establish that the FBI are going through their playbook, as Al tells us. And I think you could just establish that there are helicopter pilots flying that helicopter that eventually explodes. I don't think you need more comic relief when the movie already has enough of them.
Yeah.
The movie has enough stupid characters, more than enough stupid characters.
Hmm.
Yeah, but no, otherwise, I mean, the one thing this movie probably, in fact, we know that the film did not have is that scene between Hans and McClane in the second act where they're encountering each other, where they're both at a disadvantage and at advantage. That is a masterstroke, and that's one of the reasons why this is one of my favorite movies, because it's taking chances. As much as I'm critical of how overwritten the movie is, that's a nice quality. Most action movies are not overwritten, overthought. It's based on this book. I think Roderick Thorpe, I think, was the author of Nothing Lasts Forever. And it's weird because the book, I've read the novel. It's very faithful to the movie. But at the same time, the film is so much better. How do you feel about the sequels?
Oh, I like the sequels. Yeah,
when people ask me, like, what's your favorite Die Hard sequels? Like, for me, my top 5 Die Hard movies, it's order of appearance. I love the first one, but then I'd say 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the number one's the best one.
Yeah, number one's definitely the best one. But yeah, I love the second one. 3 is terrific, but it does have that second act that really crawls. Like, the movie just like literally explodes out of the running gate, and then it's got this second act. Remember, where it's just like and it's just a lot of like Jeremy Irons walking around, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And Live Free or Die Hard, I think, is a lot better than people remember. It's really a strong movie. People didn't like the fact that John McClane is like James Bond in that movie, but whatever. He survived the Nakatomi building. Of course, he's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
he's going to be fun.
Exactly.
And the last one is the weak link, and there's parts of it that aren't very well done. The script has problems, but that's another one. Like, I'm not saying it's a great film. Although I think I said as much as the time when it came out. That was one of those reviews I got a lot of response to.
You said it was great.
I think I said my angle on it was like, just forget the first film, take this as it is, and enjoy. And people are like, we're not going to forget the first film. Are you insane? But I think as much as Jai Courtney hasn't really impressed me over the years, I thought he was fine in that movie, and I think there's a number of scenes that really work. But that film it's very hit and miss.
I'm not a big fan of him because I feel like his ego always shows up.
Jack Courtney?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like he's...
What else do you know him from?
He's in Suicide
Squad.
Okay. I'm not going to remember the name of it, but it's a Divergent series.
Wow. I don't even... That's right, he is in that.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm impressed that you... That's a good poll.
Well, I watched that not that long ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In the last 6 months, I think I watched them all.
I think there's probably, I don't mean to be mean about Jai Courtney, because I'm sure, he already got a lot of crap about that movie, but I think there's a lot of other actors who they wanted to see playing John McClane's son.
Yeah. I mean,
you know who they tried to get for a while? They actually did a screen test with him. They really wanted him, and it wasn't working out. It was Justin Timberlake.
Oh, interesting.
You like that idea?
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's kind of like, when Shia LaBeouf tried to play Harrison Ford's son.
Yeah.
It's just like, you can't...
It's tough shoes, and they're also setting it up for like, well, maybe we'll just have one with him down the line.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, because we don't want to see the son replace this beloved character that we all love, when it's kind of like, it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah, with I think it was called A Good Day to Die Hard, the last one, it just... Some of that stuff really works. I mean, the movie is just real hit and miss across the board.
All right. So you give this one 4 stars?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Like I said, like my, I've got some quibbles with it, but it's also like, it's nitpicking. I mean, this is...
Agreed.
Yeah. Although I will say, if I'm going to say anything negative about Die Hard, and it's not much of a negative thing at all, I actually like John McTiernan's next movie better, The Hunt for Red October.
Oh.
I actually like that one better.
Really?
Yeah, I love that movie. Yeah.
I mean, if you were to say, what do you want to watch right now? I would pick Die Hard again.
I would pick The Hunt for Red October. Yeah. And I love Die Hard. I do. But yeah, Red October for me. I love that film. That's my favorite McTiernan movie. And he directed Die Hard with a Vengeance. He did this Viking movie with Antonio Banderas called The 13th Warrior, which I think me and 2 other people in the world enjoyed, but I like that film. And he did The Thomas Crown Affair with Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, which
everybody loves that one.
I love that movie.
Yeah, that's everybody's favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Do you have any other final thoughts?
It's okay that it's a Christmas movie, folks, because I think a Christmas movie doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to have Rudolph and Frosty. No, a Christmas movie could just be a film where Christmas is the setting. That's perfectly fine. And, you don't want a Christmas movie to be Leaving Las Vegas about someone who loses their life or is self-destructive. A Christmas movie, in theory, can be about resurrection or about finding yourself. And both of those things are in this movie.
Wow. Who resurrected?
Carl.
Oh my gosh.
At the end of the film, Carl is still alive. It's a Christmas miracle. And then Officer Powell makes it even better.
No.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Oh my gosh.
And then Argyle drives away in the limo, a symbol for 80s power and success.
No.
Okay.
I think that covers it, everyone. I think we've done it. I'm gonna cut this guy off.
Bygone Seagull, oh son,
All right, I think that concludes our discussion of Die Hard.